when will a vaccine be developed so we can get over this stuff, right? Well, we talked with this guy before, and we're going to talk with him again today. He is Dean L. Fanelli, a Ph.D., an expert on pharmaceutical and chemical-related technologies. He is a partner in the intellectual property department of Seaforth Shaw, LLP's Washington, D.C. office, and he joins us here on WSBA. Good morning, Dr. Fanelli. Welcome back. Great to have you in.
Good morning, Gary. Great to join you.
It's always an honor to have you aboard. So the big question is, and we heard it in debates again the other night, we heard stuff about we're in stage 3 of testing and all these kind of things. When is a coronavirus, for all practical purposes, going to be ready? Talk to us a little bit about that and what you found out in the months leading up to this moment.
Yeah, that's the big question. So there are 4 candidates that are in phase 3 that are moving forward, and they look like they're getting positive safety data, the efficacy data. Does this work? It looks positive, and these are Pfizer, Moderna. You probably heard these names. They have the 2 most advanced of these phase 3. The other 2 are from AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines look like they could be available potentially for an emergency use authorization, which is a pre-approval authorization by the U.S. FDA for people at high risk, like elderly people, people with comorbidities, and especially for healthcare workers and frontline workers. So that would be available to them, to emergency personnel as well. For the general public, realistically, we're probably looking at some point, the end of Q1, Q2, that this gets rolled out to the general public.
A lot of people, are arguing right now, obviously a political aspect of this. Will it be done before the election? Will it be done before the president leaves office? All these kind of things. And it's like no one wants anyone to get the credit. We heard the other night Kamala Harris say, well, would you take it if it was developed? She said, if President Trump said it, no, I wouldn't. But if the experts said take it, I'd take it. So we have the politics that's kind of found its way into this as it does into everything else, right?
Absolutely, and it's unfortunate. You think if there's ever a thing that could unite Democrats and Republicans, it would be a pandemic. But, we still see this politicization of when this will be out. I mean, obviously, it does not look like, and it won't be out before the election. But when we hear those, the left saying, I wouldn't take this because of the president, it's not good. I mean, there's a lot of skepticism with people. A lot of people are saying, this is being rushed. I don't want to take it. And I would just like to reassure people, this, although there's a lot of politicization of this, the U.S. FDA is an independent body. It's the gold standard of regulatory authorities when it comes to drug or vaccine approval. They're looking at the data. They're not going to approve something that doesn't look safe, that doesn't work. I mean, can you say 100%, if I get this shot in 2 years, there won't be some, unknown side effect? Of course not. But for all intents and purposes, as these trials are going through, you have some of the top scientists at the top pharma companies and biotech companies working on these vaccine candidates. So there's a lot going in here. We saw in the U.S. the AstraZeneca trial is still on hold. So that should reassure people when things, when people do see a glitch, that they are taking it seriously. So, we got to take the politics out of this, and, we have to encourage as many people as possible to get the vaccine once it's approved.
Yeah, that seems to me to be obscene, having politics in this at all. But in order for COVID-19 vaccine to truly be effective, do most Americans have to take it? How does that work out? Because I've heard different people saying, I'm not going to be the first in line once this thing comes out because it has been kind of pushed very quickly. What are your thoughts about that? And what do you say to people when you hear that kind of reckoning? Yeah,
that's a great question. And we probably people keep hearing the term herd immunity. What does that mean? And it looks like we're going to need about at least 70% of the population to get this in order to get that herd immunity. And what that means is, if you walk into a room and you have the virus, enough people are in that room or in that community to prevent the spread of the virus. So, we're probably going to need about 70%. If we get less than that, that'll certainly slow the progression of the virus. But in order to get back to normal, where we were a year ago, we're going to have at least 70% of the population get this. And, it'll probably take people seeing their friends get it, relatives start getting it, maybe employers and schools will require it. I think there should also be a campaign or some type of publicity campaign just educating people, because I think that is why there's a lot of skepticism. People just don't know, why is this so fast and are corners being cut?
Dr. Fanelli, Dr. Dean Fanelli, with us here this morning on WSBA, talking about when a coronavirus vaccine will be ready. a lot of people think herd immunity is, okay, we just let people get sick, they get over it, and we move on. Is it that simple, or is there a lot more meat on the bone than that?
Yeah, so there's two ways you get herd immunity. One is through natural infection. People get the virus, they build up immunity, and hopefully they have a long-term immunity so they become immune to it in the future. The other way is through a vaccine. Now, if you look at it now, we have about 8 million people that are sick with the virus, about over 200,000 died. In order to get herd immunity through a natural cycle, that would just be, would take too long, and it would just be catastrophic. I mean, you'd have over 1 million people dead from this. So the only way we're going to get herd immunity is through a vaccine. It's not realistic to get it through natural immunity.
Dr. Fanelli, when you look at this, what is unique about this virus compared to so many others that you've had a chance to see over the years? We hear different things about leftover kinds of effects that it has on the body. What are some of the things that we know about it now that maybe we didn't know 6 months ago?
Yeah, we're learning a lot about this every day, and as you mentioned, there's still a lot we don't know, but we don't know why healthy people, that certainly people over the age of 65, we could understand, maybe their immune system's compromised, but healthy people with, no comorbidities are getting the virus, and some of them are passing from it. So we don't know. And other people that are relatively healthy, they recover, but then they're seeing this long-term, at least what appears to be longer-term damage to the lungs, et cetera. So, it's still, they're learning a lot about this, and I get it. It has a lot of flu, and obviously it's much more deadly. So these long-term effects are also a very important issue that we're still learning about, and that's another reason why you have to take this seriously.
So is Dr. Dean Fanelli. As we talk about when a vaccine will come around for the Wuhan virus, COVID-19 virus, Dr. Fanelli, one of the things that we've argued about over the time is whose fault this is. And we heard that the other night in the debates again. But one of the places I put the fault is people in China. I call it the Wuhan virus a lot of times because it started in Wuhan, and the government in China allowed it to get back out. Am I wrong on that? I mean, if we're going to lay blame at the feet of somebody, I mean, obviously that's where the originating point was, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a pandemic, so, you don't want to blame people when this happens. It's a virus. We don't understand it. But certainly, it seems like it originated in China, and it looks like they weren't as transparent as early as, it started. I mean, I've heard some reports that they knew about it as early as August last year. I mean, we heard November, December. So it seems like they knew about it well in advance before they announced it to the world. And, certainly, when this is all said and done, I mean, I don't think it's the time during a pandemic to start, blaming them. We need to get through this. But certainly, I agree with you. I mean, it starts there. It started there, and, they should be responsible for not advising the world as promptly as they could have.
Let me ask you this question. Again, I don't want to get political, so this will be the only near political question I'll ask you. The other night we talked about the idea that Donald Trump was somehow responsible for the 210,000 deaths here in the country, that he didn't take it seriously in the beginning and all that. But one of the points that I think Vice President Pence made in the debate the other night with Senator Harris was, hey, he jumped in this right away. He shut off travel with China as soon as he knew about this and may have saved millions of lives. Without taking a political side on this, who was most correct on that? He's responsible for 210,000 dying, or he saved potentially millions of people dying by shutting off travel with China. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I just hate when it gets politicized, and I hate
right.
to hear that, it's anyone's fault. But certainly, I agree with you. Trump cut off the travel from China as soon as he knew about it. A lot of people called him xenophobic. Turns out it was the absolute correct decision. And, to put blame on anyone for this, I think is just irresponsible. It's politics, and, it's just a low blow. And I don't blame Trump for 200,000 deaths. I mean, certainly there were some unforced errors, with the masks and with the hydroxychloroquine. But, we're still learning about this. So, he's done a tremendous job with Operation Warp Speed. We have 4 candidates that are vaccine candidates that are coming through the pipeline with unprecedented speed. So, certainly in retrospect, we can Monday morning quarterback this and say what could have been done better, and that's how we learn from this. But to look back now, right before an election, and say, 200,000 deaths are on his hands is just, it's really disgusting, and it's incorrect in my opinion.
Could we have moved forward quick? Is there anything we could have done to add to what's been done? Is there anything that could have been done, in your opinion, being somewhat an expert in this area, to move forward in a much quicker way on this in terms of developing a vaccine?
In terms of developing a vaccine, we're moving as quickly as possible. The FDA is working around the clock. These scientists are working around the clock. So, we'd like the luxury of time. Typically, these phase 1, 2, and 3 trials each take several years. So here they're being truncated to months. So which is we don't have time isn't our luxury. That's not on our side. So we need to do this. So I really think things are moving as quickly as possible. I don't think they're moving so fast that a vaccine will be unsafe or won't work. But I really don't see how this could move any faster.
There was a caller just called in about a New England Journal of Medicine article, apparently about the vaccine. Had you had a chance to see that at all? I'm kind of flying blind here on this one.
There's been so many articles, and that's one of the nice things. A lot of the data that's coming out is being released to these peer-reviewed journals. So
right.
I'm not quite sure which one you're talking about, but that's one of the nice things. And in contrast to, you probably heard Vladimir Putin say they had a vaccine candidate. They didn't even publish that in peer-reviewed journals, which was completely irresponsible. So I'm not quite sure which article the caller is referring to, but there is a lot of information out there.
I'm glancing at an editorial saying, dying in a leadership vacuum, why has the United States handled this pandemic so badly? The editors note that although we came into this crisis with enormous advantages, our current political leaders have demonstrated that they are dangerously incompetent. And then COVID-19 and the President by E.J. Rubin, L.R. Baden, and S. Morrissey, and they do a thing on that as well. So final thought from you regarding what we should expect right now going forward. Where are we going to be, for example, this time next year, if you were to take a look into your crystal ball, and I'm not going to hold you to this real hard, Dr. Fanelli, but your final thoughts.
Yeah, hopefully, at least in the U.S., to vaccinate the whole world, we're talking years, but hopefully, at least in the U.S., we do get some positive feedback and some positive results from these candidates that are being tested now, because, it's going to take multiple shots on goal. It's not going to be one vaccine that treats the whole U.S. So I'm optimistic and maybe a little idealistic that by this time next year, most of the U.S. will be in the process of, getting back to normal, so to speak. But, it's going to see how rolling this out, developing a vaccine is one thing. Rolling it out to over 200 million Americans as quickly as possible, logistical challenge as well. So, but they're already working on that. The federal government has contacted state governments to reduce the regulatory hurdles up to be back to normal.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time this morning and giving us a great deal of insight on this thing, because I know a lot of people have questions and concerns about it as well. And we appreciate you giving us the straightforward look without the politics. Thank you so much, Dr. Fanelli. Where can people get more information on this and be able to maybe trust it a little bit?
Yeah, so the FDA's website, the CDC website, that's fda.gov, cdc.gov. They have a tremendous amount of information there. People should look it up and just learn more about this, because I think that'll reassure people if they're skeptical about getting the vaccine.
Dr. Dean Fanelli with us this morning. Dr. Fanelli, we look forward to our next time.